Good day, children. Today I am here to take the second video of the chapter Power Sharing. Power sharing, we started the first video with power sharing, the definition on power sharing. Then we also said that how the power is being shared in Belgium, the ethnic composition of Belgium, and the problems the Belgium were facing, and with the accommodation policy, how they were able to solve the problem which was existing in their country. That is what we learned in the first video. Now let us go to the second video of this chapter, that is with respect to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is an island nation with diverse population of 2 crore people. I did show you in the world map where was Sri Lanka, just down below India. It's a small island nation with diverse population of just 2 crore people. And the ethnic composition of Sri Lanka is, there were Sinhala speakers, that is 74% of them were Sinhalese. They followed Buddhists, or they followed Buddhism. Then they had Tamil speakers, 18% of them were Tamil speakers, with either they were Hindus or Muslims were there. Now under the Tamil speakers, there were 2 groups of Tamil speakers, that is Sri Lankan Tamils, that is 13% of them were Sri Lankan Tamils, and Indian Tamils, that is 5% of them were Indian Tamils. That is, Sri Lankan Tamils mean those people who were born and brought up in Sri Lanka, the Tamilians who were born and brought up in Sri Lanka. But Indian Tamils, they are migrated from India to Sri Lanka in search of job. Likewise, they settled there. There were 5% of them. Now, in order to establish Sinhala supremacy, the Sri Lankan government followed majoritarian measure. Now, by the term majority, that is, what you mean by majoritarianism? That is, it's a political philosophy where majority community rule a country. Majority community rule a country, where disregarding the needs of the minorities are not taken into consideration. In fact, the minorities will have to adapt themselves to the majority. That is what we mean by majoritarianism. So, in order to adapt, or in order to have Sinhala supremacy, the Sri Lankan government followed a majoritarian measure. What did they do? They adopted certain strategies. What are the strategies? The first strategy is, in 1956, an act was passed where Sinhala was accepted as the official language. Sinhala was declared as the official language in the act of 1956. Then government also followed preferential policies towards the Sinhalese, especially to the university positions as well as government jobs. That is, Sinhalas were given more or they were favored for both university positions as well as the government jobs. Then a new constitution was stipulated, wherein which they said the state shall protect Buddhism. Since we are aware, Sinhalese, they followed Buddhism, or they were Buddhists, and since the Buddhism was given more importance, and state said that they are ready to protect Buddhism. So a new constitution stipulated where state shall protect Buddhism. Okay. So naturally we understood that they have lots of problems. There have existed lot of problem in Sri Lanka. The Sri Lankans, they felt they were alienated. The Sri Lankan felt that a feeling of alienation increased among them. And they had the feeling that the constitution and the government denied them equal political rights. They felt that the government is not giving them political rights. They felt that the government is not giving them government jobs. They felt that they are being discriminated in all respects, and thus they wanted to have their own political state, or they wanted to have an independent state of themselves. So they started to launch parties and struggles for the recognition of Tamil. So they started to put lot of struggles, or they wanted to have certain state of their own. So what has happened was, in 1980s, political organizations were formed demanding independent state. That is, in 1980s, political organizations were formed that is demanding for an independent state, that is called Tamil Illam. And ultimately what happened is, the distress between these two communities led to civil war. Naturally, these two people could not accommodate themselves. So ultimately there was civil war. What do you mean by civil war? It's a violent conflict between various groups within a country. They were fighting among the people, or they were fighting among themselves in a country. So ultimately there was, the civil war caused a terrible setback to the social, cultural and economic life of the country. That is, through the majoritarian policy, this country were not able to progress. Now, I would like to show you this through, we will just recap it through a PPT. Sri Lanka. This is the map of Sri Lanka, where we have, it's an island nation. That's what I told you when I showed you in the map, the world map. Then the ethnic composition, 74% of the people, that is, these were the Sinhalese. Then we had the Tamil speakers, that is 18% of them were Tamil speakers. These were the Tamil speakers. Then we had the Indian Tamils here, and we have these as a Muslim community. Then I said about, to establish Sinhala supremacy, the majoritarian measures which is being adopted by the Sri Lankan government. That is, in 1956, an act was passed. That is, an act was passed where, in order to establish Sinhala supremacy, a majoritarian measures were adopted. That is, in 1956, an act was passed where Sinhala is declared as the official language. And second strategy was, the government followed preferential policies, that is, which favored Sinhala applicants both in the university positions and the government jobs. Third strategy, or the third majoritarian policy was, a new constitution was stipulated where it says, state shall protect and foster Buddhism. These were the majoritarian policies which was taken up in order to establish Sinhala as supremacy. Then the problems that emerged in Sri Lanka, that is the Sri Lankan Tamils, they had to face a lot of problems. So what is the main problem that they were facing? Majoritarianism increased the feeling of alienation among the Sri Lankan Tamils. They felt that they are being alienated. They felt that the constitution, the government policies are denied, they are not given the equal right. They are not, they have been discriminated against them giving jobs and other opportunities. They have been ignored. All these, ultimately led to a conclusion, that is, they wanted to have an independent state of their own. For that sake, Sri Lankan Tamils launched parties, struggles for the recognition of Tamil as the official language. And by 1980s, several political organizations were formed demanding for an independent state. That is what they meant by Tamil Illam. And naturally, there was distrust among these two communities, which led to a civil war. Now, what you mean by civil war? It is a violent conflict between various groups in the country itself. Naturally, with the civil war, there was a terrible setback to the social, cultural and economic life of the country. They could not prosper because of the majoritarian policy that has been adopted by Sri Lanka. Now, I would like to give you some questions with regard to the second video. First question, as I told you before I start, I just want to remind you, make sure read the text thoroughly, mark it with pencil, and if you have any doubt, you can clear it during the Google Meet. The first question, what you mean by majoritarianism? Number 2, describe the ethnic compositions of Sri Lanka. 3, what preferences were given to the Sinhalese? Number 4, how was majoritarianism practiced in Sri Lanka? These are the 4 questions for you to mark in the textbook with respect to Sri Lanka. Now, I would like to give you an assignment question for video 2. That is, how was majoritarianism practiced in Sri Lanka? I repeat, how was majoritarianism practiced in Sri Lanka? Make sure you write the assignment in the A4 size sheet. As I've told you, border the A4 size sheets, write neatly. Thank you and have a great day.